Yesterday we learned how to use a ruler to measure different items to the nearest 1/4 inch and 1/2 inch. Today we're going to take what we learned and we're going to apply that to create line plots. When you were in second grade, you learned how to create line plots to the nearest whole number. So we're going to add on to that, and we're not just going to do to the nearest whole number, we're also going to use fractions in it. So I have a project that I'm working on a car and I need some bolts, and I have to have certain lengths, make sure I have enough of each one. So I have some bolts right here that I've measured. Went ahead and typed it up so it was a little bit neat. So let's go ahead and dive in and get started. So here is my data. I measured them, I grabbed them. I would grab a bolt, measure it, and record my data. So they're in a random order. To make that a little bit more organized, I'm going to create a chart to stay more organized. So my chart is going to be labeled as length, because we're dealing with the length of these bolts, and then tally over here. So when I'm looking at this, my smallest length that I have is 1/4 of an inch. So I'm going to write 1/4, and I'm going to go through, and for every 1/4 of an inch, I'm going to put a check mark above it so that I know I didn't forget it, and I'll put a tally mark. So there's 1, 2, 1, 2. Looks like that is all of those that I have. Next, I have my next largest one would be 1/2. So I'm going to write 1/2, and I'm going to count those. Let's see. There's 1, 2, and 3. Next would be 3/4. When I'm looking at that, I don't see any 3/4. So I'm going to move on. After 3/4 would be 1 whole. So I'm going to write 1 because I know I saw that. I see 1. There's a couple more. 2, 3. Oh, there's one more. 4. All right. Next would be 1 and 1/4, which I don't see any of those. And then would be 1 and 1/2, which I do see. So there's 1 right there. And that's going to be it. After 1 1/2 would be 1 and 3/4, which I don't have any of those. After that would be 2. Let me see. I do see there's 1, 2, and 3. I'm going to make sure I didn't forget any. All right, I've got everything. All right, so now that I have my chart, it's more organized than this random set of data. I'm going to now turn it into a line plot. So for a line plot, you'll never guess what I'm going to start with. I'm going to start with a line. And then on my line plot, I'm going to start at 0. And then my biggest number that I had was 2. So over here, I'm going to put a 2. In between 0 and 2 would be 1. I also can't forget to label it. I told you that I was measuring the different lengths of bolts. So I'm going to put a label right here, lengths of bolts. And down here, I'm going to say what these numbers are going to represent. And those numbers are going to represent measurement in inches. And then now I need to fill it out just like a kind of a number line. All right, so 0, between 0 and 1, I know halfway would be 1/2. This would be 1/4. This would be 3/4. And then over here, halfway in between 1 and 2 would be 1 and 1/2, 1 and 1/4, and 1 and 3/4. So now that I have everything labeled, I'm going to actually start plotting this. So plot them. It's going to be easy for me because I have this chart. So for 1/4, I'm going to draw an X for every tally mark that I have. So for 1/4, I have 2 tally marks. So above 1/4, I'm going to have 2 X's. For 1/2, I have 3. I'm going to make sure that all my X's are very similar in size. So 1, 2, 3. Don't have any 3/4 for 1. There's 4 there. So 1, 2, 3, 4. There's nothing for 1 and 1/4. For 1 1/2, I have 1. There's nothing for 1 3/4. And then for 2, I have 1, 2, 3. I'm going to double check everything. All of these are checked off. And then here, I have a title Everything looks good.